Hello and welcome to Patched. I'm your host, Paul James, and I'm not joined by Matto Phillips. He's busy scaling the Alps right now, but Ryan Betson, how's things,
Hey
mate?
man, I'm not scaling the Alps because that would be
That,
dumb.
that, that would be real shit.
That's a
It was
whole lot of effort.
it was some joke we made when Damo just like disappeared off the show and
Oh
was kind of
yeah,
largely kind of never returned. And then
big,
Matto's
that's
off
a
to New
big
Zealand at the
throwback.
moment, so he's doing the Alps. But
Yeah,
also, I've
there you
seen all
go.
these amazing photos. He's been to like Hobbiton and he went to Weta Workshop and he's just going down to the South Island now. I'm like, Matto, get fucked.
Yeah,
I
like we're
had
happy that you're doing it, but also what the fuck, man?
It was only
What the
like
fuck?
2 weeks ago where like some of those bushfires that were going on at my neck of the woods, it
Yeah.
started like 150 meters from his house, and now he's off in New Zealand. Like, get fucked. I don't know if this is too early for us to be dropping bombs left, right. Yeah, we've only got a minute, so we're already.
It's look, we're both. It's our first bit of content back for the year.
Yeah,
Like in the game space. So
yeah, true. You don't even do
nah, I'm back tomorrow night.
tomorrow
Man.
night, but our shows will go up within the space of like an hour of each other, so
Yeah, pretty much.
it's all fine. So yeah, Matto, fuck you. You enjoy New Zealand, and well, not, I guess, but we'll talk about a whole bunch of PlayStation. It's conveniently your pet subject. Conveniently, there's a whole bunch of news about all things PlayStation. Well, a whole bunch of PlayStation franchises anyway that came out at CES this week, and we don't mind a decent adaptation when it crops up. So
I completely agree that the adaptations so far have been some stellar, some I started and then sort of gave up a bit, but others have been good.
we'll go on before we talk about the news part of it and the stuff that's coming. Like,
Mm.
talk to me about some of the various adaptations, what you've liked, what you haven't. We've had Uncharted, The Last of Us, Twisted Metal. Am I thinking Gran Turismo?
Oh yeah,
Um,
too.
I can't think
It's
of
kind of
anything
it. I
else
think
in
that's
like in
kind of
this
it
modern day.
mostly.
Let's not
Yeah,
count the
so
Ratchet and Clank movie.
yeah, so obviously the biggest one is The Last of Us. It's exceptional. It's brilliant. Uh, that is the
Benchmark.
tentpole, like the benchmark. It's the upper echelon of what Sony Pictures, so pardon me, PlayStation Pictures. Is that what it's PlayStation Pictures? Yes,
PlayStation Productions. PlayStation.
Productions.
Yeah.
PlayStation Productions are working on. Twisted Metal. I watched about 3 episodes on a flight to Sydney once, and I was like, oh, I should watch more of this, and then I didn't. So, not an entirely a commentary on the show itself. I really enjoyed it. Anthony Mackie is not really like an actor for me, but I liked the woman that was in it. She was in Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
I haven't watched Brooklyn Nine-Nine, much to the
Oh,
disgust
she's
of many. So
oh, it's fine. It's brilliant, but you know, so you gotta be ready for a weird sitcom. You know, be ready there for it. Gran Turismo I haven't seen. I
neither have
did
I.
get the Sony Pictures little hub thing on the PlayStation 5 when it was
Oh
available.
yeah,
Yeah, I was the core or whatever it was called,
yeah. That's it.
with the sole intention of watching Gran Turismo. Did not. Uh,
I forgot about
Uncharted,
that
I did.
entirely.
Yeah, Uncharted, I went and saw that at the cinemas, and I did enjoy that quite a lot. It was very much like let's just cram a bunch of the highlights of Uncharted together, um, which for some at the time was oh boo, but at the same time it's no, we've established what this version of Uncharted is. We've given you the key points so that for the next movie no one's gonna go oh guess you have to do Among Thieves, you know.
Yeah,
But
true. They can just they can. Well, yeah, it'll be an interesting one. They can
well, yeah, because
really
they
they've just
did
got a
what
blank
they did
canvas at this point, right?
they did the big air scene from Deception. They did the big boat in the cove from Thieves End. There was no big train sequence though, which they may have to do in the sequel. Oh no, there wasn't there?
I haven't seen it yet.
Okay.
Came out. He was so mortified that we nearly killed him. It was one of those ones I wanted to see, and then in the cinemas,
Excuse me.
kids and pandemics and all those sorts of things didn't really allow for it. And then since then, it just hasn't worked out. And I want to because I don't mind a bit of Uncharted. But
Yeah, look, it's worth a sit down as long as you're willing to go. This is not the Uncharted that I want it to be, and
yeah,
if you can go, oh, okay, cool, then you're fine.
but I'm sure they'll also learn. Yeah, now that they've kind of got a lot of that older material out of the way, and they
Yeah,
can just carve out their own thing, and they've I mean that was such a tumultuous sort of development
Mm.
in the first place. That movie went through how many scripts and how many producers and how many directors. Like, it was insane.
Numerous and
Yeah,
multiple years. Like it's quite a long time. So to have it come to fruition at all was quite impressive.
yeah.
And it did have the for lack of a better term, the stank of Sony Pictures by Tom Holland having to be in it for some reason, which turned out he wasn't a horrendous Nathan Drake, but Mark Wahlberg at Sully was a choice. I do like me some Marky Mark, but
Not
could have
that time.
been should have been like once again should have been a little bit older, but I understand what they were going for. Once again, as we mentioned,
Oh,
with the idea
goddamn
of just
Dorado.
resetting it. Yeah.
All right, so that's,
What
I
about yourself?
guess. I look. I mean, as I mentioned, I haven't seen Uncharted, and I've only caught bits and pieces of Gran Turismo. But I actually really quite liked what was going on with Gran Turismo. As someone who doesn't like racing games, doesn't hasn't had any interest in kind of movies around racing and those sort of things. Someone puts Fast and the Furious in front of me, nah, get fucked. Don't tell me it's
So
about family.
I watched all 10 of them in 2.5 weeks for no reason.
Oh,
It was an experience. You do start to really understand what they're trying to help do with that franchise, and it's
all about
a whole
family,
other
man.
thing. Well, that is the through point, but each movie is very clearly inspired by like some other sort of genre. Like one that is straight like it's just James Bond spy movie. One is literally like if they were comic book heroes, and they all kind of deliver different because of it. And at the end, it kind of
Maybe I'll
especially
give him a
with 10,
chance.
it feels like this back end of a big D&D campaign where all the characters that were once your enemies are now part of your party, and you're all coming together. This big boss. It's weird.
I don't know.
Not a Sony property though.
But then beyond that, we obviously the other two we spoke about. The Last of Us, I don't think I really need to say too much there. I just echo everything you said. Like it's best in class. Still better as brilliant as the Fallout TV show was last year. Last of Us still has it covered in the quality stakes as far as I'm concerned.
I'm also aware that's a personal bias on that one as well, because Fallout was very, very good, and I do think Fallout had an ability to hold true to what its source material was. Like, it made everything practical, like everything was tangible
Yeah.
and touchable to really set the overall scene of the Fallout, post-apocalyptic world. And Uncharted did. Sorry, my apologies. Last of Us did that too. However, because they kind of were able to play within our world and just kind of tweak in the crazy bits, it just felt like a really good like movie. And TV
Well, I mean, the
series. It
thing,
absolutely is.
the trick with The Last of Us in the first place, and obviously especially as people who kind of adore those games, would both agree that as a video game, The Last of Us is also extraordinary. But in terms of the moment to moment, the playing of it, but also they stray so much further into cinema and television. Those in terms of the production, the way they set their cinematics and all those, like the production value behind all of that, which is a realm that Fallout doesn't invest.
Very true.
Bethesda doesn't invest in the same sort of way. So I think the jump
And of course,
to go from the way
episode 3 was one of the most heartwarming and
holy shit,
heartbreaking episodes of television I've ever seen.
Yeah, and that's obviously a whole bunch of, I mean, based on game content, but otherwise mostly original content. So very, very well done, and very much looking forward to season 2 there. But we'll talk more about that shortly. And then Twisted Metal, yeah, really, really enjoyed that one. Definitely worth going back and checking those other episodes out, man. I know you just mentioned your reasons.
Joe being Sweet Tooth is certainly an intriguing option, being the big wrestling dork that I am.
And isn't Jaffe going to be in season 2? I'm pretty sure.
I sure hope so.
I'm pretty sure I heard Jaffe was gonna make an appearance, which is kind of cool.
I'd be keen to.
In like a totally dumb, ridiculous way, and he'll start shouting at righties, right wing folk, and midway through the show for no apparent reason, and it'd be a good time. Anyway, all of this setup is to lead to the fact that at CES this week we got some updates on, well, The Last of Us for starters, season 2, and we'll jump into that probably first because that's, I guess, more of a formality of the whole thing here, and we actually got something quite tangible from that. But then there was 3 other franchises that we need to discuss as well. We already knew that it was a Ghost of Tsushima movie coming, but now they've announced that there's an anime. Do we go and call it anime? Like, I don't know. This,
yes, sure.
For neither of us, this is not really our realm, but yeah. That's due out in 2027. It's going to hit Crunchyroll because why can't Sony make it and then publish it and keep it all on their platforms and make every cent. Well done, Sony. The Horizon Zero Dawn TV series that was cancelled as a TV series is now a full feature movie, which we'll discuss in detail shortly. And now I've forgotten the fourth one. What's the fourth one?
Helldivers.
Oh, and Helldivers, of course, which we've had a lot to say about Helldivers throughout 2024, and now we've got a film coming there. Starship Troopers, the game, the movie, the game, the movie.
Harder.
So Helldive harder. So let's start with The Last of Us season 2 though, because we got to see a trailer there. We know it's coming in April. What did you make of what they showed? Given that, I mean, there's gonna be millions out there that haven't played the game, and I think about my mum in this context, for example, who absolutely loved the first season, was really a little bit about it at first when I kind of gave her the overview. She didn't question the quality, but was a little bit, I don't know about this, and then fell in love with it upon watching it. But then there's like of us who know exactly what's going on here. We know the second game is being split into 2 parts. We don't know how that's being split, but we know it's been split into 2 parts. We know all the key beats from the game. So what are you making of what they've shown in this latest teaser trailer?
Obviously, the big thing is trying to separate myself from being the fan that I am and knowing what they're going to do, but also looking at it for what it is in separate, as you mentioned. I liked how they sort of showed a little bit of Abby and enough to sort of tease her, pardon me, as a character that we should be paying attention to. And at the back end of the trailer, it highlights the idea of consequence of action.
Yep.
So, yeah, and I think that's a key point that is sort of throughout The Last of Us as a whole, and it is essentially what fuels the main, like, sort of opening points within The Last of Us Part 2 and then through the trajectory of the remainder of the game. So I think they're doing enough here to tease and invoke that feeling, because the trailer itself doesn't really give away much, doesn't say much. It's just very much a feeling trailer. And
Yep.
with the
It's a
idea
tone
of
piece.
yeah, it's a tone piece with the announcement of it's coming in April, which is
Yep.
sooner than I was kind of. I would have wanted the earlier this year, but I would imagine they would have put it in June somewhere. So I'm glad it's not as far away as it could be.
Yeah,
What about
apparently
yourself?
apparently there's some bit, and this is my ignorance because I don't watch that much TV really for the most part, but there's some big HBO series that's on at the moment that apparently is due to wrap up the week before, so it'll be their one big tentpole ending with the next big tentpole rolling out, which is long been a very HBO thing to do. You would go from Game of Thrones to then the next thing.
Now.
Dexter's a Showtime job, so that's a totally
it's
different thing.
Showtime, innit? Damn it.
Um,
I'm trying to remember the opening logos.
because I do watch Dexter. I am watching Dexter. So glad to have Dexter back again. But no, I can't for the life of me think of what it was. But I did see it was the final episode was due to finish on like March 31st or something like that, which would then, I mean, we know April. HBO does have that sort of thing, which is there's always that one big tent pole that we've got. You know, they'd move from Game of Thrones to their next big series and they'd stagger them out really, really well to ensure that there was no dull, quiet moments. There was always something to kind of build around.
Was it Dune or House of Dragon or anything like that?
No, it wasn't. No, it definitely wasn't either of those. But it was. Yeah, it wasn't something I'd necessarily familiar with. But apparently, it's a big one.
Might be Dune. It might be Dune.
We'll go with it.
Dune Prophecy, because that's only 4 episodes deep. So.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, maybe it was that, and I'm just an idiot. But I mean, either way, it sounds like whatever this show is going to end at the very end of March, and then it just makes sense at that point that maybe The Last of Us is the very next week. But the way that trailer is presented, you said it yourself. It's a tone piece. For those of us who've consumed the content, I think our heads are spinning still because there's things that we know are kind of early on in the game. There's things that we know are kind of late in the game that have been shown across the trailers that we've seen so far. So trying to work out how they're splitting this stuff is kind of doing my head in.
Absolutely, because there are some choices that are made by Neil Druckmann and the team at Naughty Dog throughout the game to have those time jumps and what you would assume would be an appropriate split point in terms of if you want to do, if you were going to split this, this game into, or this game, sorry, this adaptation into 2 seasons, that it would be the point at which you would do it, and that we're talking about the theater for those playing at
Yeah.
home, right? And that's what transitions into the 3 days later or however many days it was. So that could be that. However, there's not to say that they can't sort of just tell one person's story, and then the second season be the other perspective. I think that would lose a lot of the impact of, pardon me, of what to experience, with the idea of feeding you the two sides of the story at the same time, or seeing it from one angle with just enough to give you what that person would see of them, and then to switch and see the other character's world and how they perceive your first character, in this case,
Yeah.
Ali to Abby, Abby to Ali.
It would really interest me now, obviously, because we have seen little slices of either person's story. There's lots of Joel references there. I'm gonna try and dance around spoilers because
So that has to happen. That's like, but then again,
but we know that would have to happen. Yeah, the moment that we're not going to discuss, we know kind of has to happen in this season 2. It's just a matter of when. But I'm really interested. Like, this could be, in terms of the way they're putting the marketing out there, because all of us who've played the game, there's kind of a I know what's going to happen here, and blah 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 blah. And I'm not in any way suggesting that they are going to change any of these moments. I don't think that I don't think that's even a consideration. But maybe based on like the way they've recorded things, and this is me spitballing here, the way they've recorded things, they've kind of potentially recorded huge swaths of this stuff, and some of the stuff that they're spicing into these trailers are actually segments that we won't see till season 3 potentially. But they're presenting it in such a way, like, here's your dynamic with your two characters, and what I guess what we will say is there is this kind of day 1, 2, 3 with Abby, and this day 1, 2, 3 with Ali, and kind of their two different stories that they show separately but are running in parallel. They might be showing segments of Ali's story, they might be showing segments of Abby's story, but maybe season 2 is actually just one half of it. Maybe they're kind of dropping those little bits in there, but then some of these scenes that we're seeing in these trailers don't actually feature for another 12 months. We don't actually see them for 12 months. But then
at the same time, like, we saw this within the first trailer that they, with the reveal of the series, they connected 2 scenes that weren't connected. It was where Joel and was speaking to Ali and like, now hang on, is this? It was something weird.
Yeah.
From memory. So, and as we alluded to a moment ago with with episode 3, that is non-existent within the games in themselves. So what's the likelihood that we are going to get additional episodes in here that tell stories
about Dina
outside, or about Dina, or when that's all, if the main theme once again is action and consequence. There's a whole lot of time within Joel's history that we don't know about. Is it possible that they're going to fill in some of those gaps and provide, demonstrate the choices that which Joel has made to get to this point? So then, what would then help him? It would help try demonstrate his rationality to do what he did at the end of season 1, perhaps.
Yeah.
Once again, because we know what Neil and the team were trying to deliver was the understanding that there's 2 sides to every story. They're not everyone.
Well, you're a hero in one story and a villain in the other, right? That's exactly what Joel is.
But that's how that it's all in the eye of the individual. Where in Abby's story, she's the hero and Ali would be the villain. And I like that as a concept, and I think they might try to expand on that in these throwbacks with Joel to demonstrate moments where you are sort of trying to invoke him more as that hero.
Yeah.
To see when he was in his prime, and then maybe they might do the same to Abby as well, because Ali's history we don't know too much about. But yeah, with individuals like Dina, etc., or even the establishment of Jacksonville.
True. Yeah, there's lots that they can kind of wade through, and
Jacksonville.
Yeah, Jacksonville. Yeah. There's so much they could wade through, and like I'm really fascinated. I guess this kind of bleeds into the game development process and kind of Naughty Dog and what they're up to as well. Like it's all but a given that at some point we are going to get a Last of Us Part 3. Neil alluded to, I don't know if you checked out that documentary that came with the Last of Us Part 2 remastered, and certainly the news bite made it kind of break out of it anyway, where like they've worked out what they want to do with it. Like
Yeah.
they've got a
Yeah,
direction.
they've done the pre-production in the idea of like they've hit the beats of the story and they've shaped what the game will become, but it's not in any form of active development. As we know, they're now working on
Intergalactic. Yeah.
Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet.
So it could be 5 years, maybe even
Easy.
longer.
Yeah. Like we thought originally they would hope to sort of tie it with the delayed production of season 2 of The Last of Us that would give them 3-4 years. We remember speculating once that they would like try to drop part 3 as the show comes out, but that also then negates the point, because if they want to then make another series after that, and they're about to just blow out all the spoilers, they don't really want to sync those two together. I think that the only thing they're going to do instead is sync up, like they're about to, with the part 2 remastered release on PC. That's it.
Well, and so could it be one of these scenarios? And I kind of lead into this because you were talking about, looking at Joel in the 20 years, like the gap between the outbreak and then obviously what we see in The Last of Us Part 1 or The Last of Us, whatever you want to call it. Could those sorts of stories be standalone seasons that not designed to fill the gap, but they will ultimately also fill the gap that then allows time for part 3 to come out whenever it comes out, and then from there you go, okay, now we can maybe start production on an adaptation of part 3. It's going to be very soon, I think. Regardless, it's going to be an awkward thing, because I think it's going to be very quick if they ultimately go down that path.
Yeah, because even those in between years, as you mentioned, like we kind of default to thinking, X amount of years after the outbreak, where he's starting to become this ragtag sort of little dude, he's putting his name out there enough to not be fucked with. But I was just thinking about it then.
All these stories of Joel and Tess that we could jump into.
And I think it would work very well with the options, with the stories they're wanting to tell in part 2. To show, like, get them to show Joel, or in this case Pedro, because I do believe he has the acting ability to show this, what happened immediately after the death of Sarah.
Yeah.
Like those early years, because that level of trauma and pain is what would put him on the path that he is. But in turn, it helps him with it would help us, for those that may have difficulty seeing that rationale of why he would walk into that building and obliterate everybody at the end of the first season, right?
Yeah.
Like take out all those fireflies, because you'll be able to see and like almost like reach out and touch just that fucking agony.
Yeah.
Which
agree.
Can then almost go alongside what we, minor spoilers for Last of Us Part 2, when you come to realize that the doctor that gets shot with Ellie is Abby. You could have those two stories run alongside each other. Yeah. And they can mirror. We can see the utter pain that comes from Joel with the loss of his most important person, and you can see Abby with the the pain that she feels, the loss of the most important person, and you start to see that their motivations are aligned, which is actually why they're opposed to each other. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, and that then going back to the whole, exactly, kind of that theme of part 2 with the, hatred and all those sorts of things that Neil's spoken about for years, but also the hero in one story is the villain in the other, and they just, they're complete opposites, and they would then come to blows over that. It's a really fascinating one, and obviously when you factor in that, like, Intergalactic is this variable that's popped in the mix that anyone outside of PlayStation / Naughty Dog, you weren't counting on. We knew that there was a love of sci-fi, and
we're the last of us out.
Yeah. Look, it's probably not the worst thing to get a bit of a break, but we're not really getting a break, are we? Because we've got season 2, we've got season 3. We might get spin-offs in the middle there that kind of buy time in different ways. Because if you're HBO, there's no way you're turning down the opportunity to adapt part 3 as well. Like, you're going to want to find a way to do this. So how do we do this? And Neil's spoken about, and again, this goes back to the documentary, where he's like, there's so many stories that we could tell, but we can't, because of the nature of games. Maybe they're smaller in scope, and we're probably not in this same sort of environment these days where a team like Naughty Dog can do something of the size of a Left Behind anymore. Like when they go to do, I think about what happened with Uncharted 4. We're gonna have this DLC, and then it became Lost Legacy, which was like 6 to 8 hours long.
Yeah.
I don't think they're a studio now, given their size and their pedigree and everything they do, they can't make a 1 to 2 hour experience. So they've got all these stories that are probably begging to be fleshed out, begging to be realized, and this could be the way that they do that. I'd imagine that that story of Bill was
Yeah.
probably there and had been there, and it's like, but we can't. This doesn't work in the game here, and now we can't really create some DLC for this. It doesn't really work in that context either. So
Mm.
I guess it's just never going to be realized. And then all of a sudden HBO comes along, they've got a TV series and there's an episode dedicated. Boom, there's that story realized. And all of these things can kind of, you got some parts that are adaptations and kind of retellings of stories that we already knew. And then there's others that this is like through the TV series, this is the one way you're going to get that story. And through the game, this might be the one way that you get this bit. Because
Well,
there's
that's
obviously
the
plenty of
difference.
characters in the game that we've not seen, like from part one, that
And
weren't depicted at
the big
all.
difference, as you like, the big difference between like watching and playing, right, is that tactility, right? Like
That too.
you are heavily involved. So like the decisions that we would have to make as Ali or as Abby are difficult because we're the ones participating in it. So I think in the series they have the ability to show more than tell, right? In that
Yeah.
they have to demonstrate the emotional beats that you would have felt when you're playing the game. So I think they do have that. It gives them a little bit of room to twist and bend and shape and tell the same story a different way or alter it ever so slightly to have it hit a different impact. So I think you're bang on there, and that's something that I think we'll probably spend a bit more time on in this.
And again, if you're HBO, you go. we can
Yeah.
we can cash in on that Last of Us name and hopefully not lose the quality. Like I hope that common sense would prevail that if they do
It's not
go
gonna
down this
Walking
path and
Dead,
have spin-offs, we're not going to go. Okay, we need another 8 episode season. That maybe this is a mini season. Maybe this is 3 or 4 episodes, and then that's it. That's it for the year. But like you've got your Last of Us, Phil. You've kept that franchise in terms of the TV world. You've kept it relevant.
Or you get like one of that Breaking Bad El Camino, that little
Oh
development.
yeah. Whatever it is that kind of keeps it at the forefront of people's minds, but ultimately keeps that road ahead for the part 3 adaptation there. But
Yeah.
who knows? Because we got to get the game first, and that could be 2030.
Who knows?
Let's move on to another franchise here, and let's talk about Horizon now because that is one that obviously I alluded to before. There was meant to be a TV series. Was that was with Netflix,
That was
wasn't it?
Netflix, yeah.
Because then God of War is with. Oh, we didn't even
Amazon?
reference that. Obviously, that's it. But yeah, that's with Amazon. So that went to shit during the course of last year. Was it a director? It was a director or a producer. They parted ways due to some
Your classic creative differences.
and some behaviours from that individual that no one was really agreeing with, and then that kind of caused the project to kind of fall in a bit of a heap. Now we're getting a film adaptation instead of a TV one. Firstly, do you think that's for the better or the worse?
I think it's a bit of both. If anything, having played Lego Horizon Adventures recently, you realize that you can boil down the story of Horizon pretty simply if you so chose.
Yeah,
Right? So the idea of having to condense it down to a 2 hour,
hot
3
dogs
hour
and
film, not too
what
bad.
else? Yeah, hot dogs and what else
Apart
you
from
like in that? Yeah,
hot dogs, hot dogs aside, of course. Um, but it demonstrates that you can condense that movie into a shorter window of time, and you can still get all the key beats and get the feel of the world without worrying. Where like Last of Us, a lot of its emotional impacts come with the benefit of time.
yeah.
Where
Characterization and all those sorts of things, and I think the characters of Horizon, for as much as we love Aloy, the characters aren't doing the same level of lifting in Horizon that the characters in The Last of Us, or Uncharted, or God of War,
yeah,
that they do.
I think when these deals first came about and we heard about the Netflix one, I remember being quite hopeful because I was like, oh, Netflix has money and Netflix money should allow this to be a pretty decent series. But because like as you mentioned, where when you've got characters like Last of Us where shows like The Last of Us where the characters do all the heavy lifting, they give you everything you need to work off of. Horizon's biggest appeal are its robo dinosaurs.
Yeah,
And if they look like shit, it's going to suck. Like they are such a key part of the world and the overall narrative of the game and what the
It's an instant immersion breaker if
like
they're no good.
like that Jurassic Park sense of awe and wonder that you get at the first half of that movie to then have it turn and they get horrifying almost like very very quickly. You kind of want that sense of a feeling within Horizon, and you can only get that if like the CG looks really good or there's a mix of practical and CG. Um, I
And the
think a
cost is just too
series,
great to do it over a TV series because you're trying to maintain maybe cinema quality CG
correct? Yes.
across what 10 episodes. So
Yep.
you
So
know,
rather than have like one
three
when you've
times,
got
four times the length.
yeah, so when you've got presumable budgets of a film that'll way more than a TV series because the return on a movie, at least in principle, would be better. Um, because no one's willing to pay for TV, but people will still go to the movies somewhat.
Yeah,
And Horizon might be a big enough property to get people to the movies to pay for um, such an
I'm in.
effects heavy
Yeah,
production.
I'm in.
Yeah, I'll go.
Yeah.
Absolutely, I'll go. That's probably the difference that I would see, which does we will likely miss out on a lot of the greater nuances within the Horizon world, but we'll still hit all the beats of like who is, where is Aloy from? Who's the mother and the tree and the dinos and then they'll hint enough at Gaia that it could lead into a second movie and get fucking weird because that's what Forbidden West does.
Yeah, it's
It's so good.
it's gonna be a real time, I think, seeing that one. But I guess similar-ish sort of story to the Last of Us one, where we obviously there's going to be a third game, let
Mm.
alone online stuff that we're supposedly getting. And
Oh, that multiplayer. I keep forgetting about that.
I
Eh?
mean, I've
Ugh.
sorry PlayStation, I've got that video that leaked.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, no, I didn't. No, I didn't.
Mm.
Um,
I
but it
found
was
some.
all over the internet, and we got our hands on it very quickly and very easily. And thank you, YouTube downloader. Um, so,
What about yourself though? Like, do you think it's better to be in a movie format than series?
well, again, like, and I think you nailed it pretty well there, where so much of it hinges on the mech dinos and them looking as quote unquote realistic as possible,
Yeah.
and sacrifices would have to be made for a TV series simply because, yeah, if you let's say it's a 10 episode season, by 40 minutes, you're talking 400 minutes, you're talking like 5-6 hours of content. And that's just not something that you can financially justify in the same way that you can justify a 90 minute to 2.5 hour long film. Let alone all the financials that then go on top of that in terms of what's more profitable, what's potentially more profitable for them. It's yeah, it makes all the sense in the world as to how and why we got there. There are downsides, as you said, and like in terms of the way that some things can be fleshed out, maybe can't be the same. But who's to say that they don't have a scenario where this is hopefully a hugely successful film?
It's got
Presume,
blockbuster potential. Like,
yeah,
imagine being in like a Titan screening or VMAX or whatever the hell it's called, and you get the thunder jaw and that huge rumble and like the big low end bass. It's like Atmos.
feels
It's
like the room's shaking and
yeah, like that'd be incredible. Like you can't get that most people can't deliver that in a home
their home cinema.
experience.
Yeah. So then, presumably that hopefully that does really well. You then get a sequel that's presumably an adaptation of Forbidden West. But then somewhere along the way, like if these are big, there is no reason why they then can't have the TV spin-off that is
Frozen Wilds, yeah.
or that's whether it's Frozen Wilds or it's something totally different set in the universe, but it's almost your supernatural style monster of the week sort of thing where you're having this encounter with the Thunderjaw in one episode, and then maybe, the next episode you're dealing with like I'm just going blank on the different Snapjaw and all those sorts of different things that that feature where there's stories from the Horizon universe. The financial investment doesn't have to be as great, but also it's much lower risk because you've got an audience that is there now. They're
Yeah.
like, yeah, no, we'll consume Horizon content that's not just the gaming audience. So there's opportunities that they could explore in that realm as well. Any other thoughts on all things Horizon?
No, and I think it just kind of hits. There's a reason that PlayStation really focus on Aloy and Horizon, and everyone's like, "Oh, these games suck," and you're all clearly objectively wrong. The game sells incredibly well. It's brilliant. It's fun. It is a even the concept of Horizon um, it is such a massive step forward. Like some people will, will question some of Aloy's behaviors and her appearance, and how she presents herself,
Yeah.
as not a strong female character. I strongly disagree. I think the world of Horizon is very strong and positive to um, to the female side of things, and for many people that'll make them crack the shits. But I think that's something that the gaming world really needs,
Yeah.
in a good, entertaining, respectful way. And I think in that you same way that all the Marvel movies, they have a bunch of shit to blow up and crazy for the dudes, and then they get their shirts off for the women. Maybe it'll go the other way. Women can come and see Horizon for like the cool story, and dudes can be like, "Yeah, shit's exploding, let's go."
Oh, I was a bit worried. I was a bit worried you were about to say, "Oh yeah," and Aloy just takes her top. I'm like, "What?"
No,
It just works much better, much better final
tricked
product.
with explosions.
Yeah, no, you pump fake. It was a nice one. So let's go to Ghost now. Ghost of Tsushima Legends, which is being adapted, which is an interesting thing in itself because Legends was as an expansion to the main game. It was a whole bunch of legends of the Ghost of Tsushima, and they were kind of retellings of the things that he'd done with a lot of embellishment. And those sort of things. I'm really interested to see what they do with this because it's not the film adaptation that we're supposedly already getting. This is different altogether. It's anime, which allows them to, in terms of how flashy they get, there's really no limits to what they can do production wise. And yeah, I mean, it's gonna be a really fascinating one. Now, I know that you've never been you've never, you're not crazy about Ghost because a lot of that Japanese setting it's never really been your jam for the most part. But in terms of a franchise and its growth and this continued march into adaptation land, what do you think?
Well, to clarify on that, yes, like look, Ghost of Tsushima from a storytelling perspective and a world didn't interest me. However, I can see that it is a ripper game. Like there is some
Betson love chasing the foxes.
Oh,
Love the foxes.
Shit me, they were best. Like some of the design choices and the world itself is really really interesting. But just I couldn't hang about in that world because samurais and shit just don't intrigue.
It's not your speed, yeah.
It's not my speed, right? So I just don't care. But here, what I like the idea of Legends now, I may be extrapolating on what I think Legends is about rather than what it actually is about. So I do apologize if I'm fucking left of center. But the idea of a legend, it's a larger than life story that is passed on and passed on and passed on. And as you mentioned, with the idea of these being an anime that has the ability to go big, large, bold, and bombastic, you can tell these incredible legend stories, right? And they're like, oh, they fought this fucking 13-foot dragon, and it did this, and he was able to be the best samurai in the best samurai town, and you could deliver that in that format. And it allows you to have 3-episode arcs or something rather than a secret level. Each episode's a little different, but you can kind of tell little story arcs. They all kind of sync together into this overall piece. And very similar to with as you mentioned, this is being done through Crunchyroll. Like Horizon's being done through Columbia Pictures, and guess who their parent company is?
Sony.
Bingo. And that's fine.
Keep it all in the family. It's all in the family.
House. Why not? Once again, Sony Pictures is a distribution platform where Columbus is a production. So, why not?
And why not? In terms of making all of these things financially viable, the more you're able to keep in house, the better, right?
And it also ensures that the IP itself gets treated correctly.
Yes.
Like if we think about the times of now that Marvel has Marvel, we're using Marvel as an example again. When Marvel was part of it was in the hands of Sony and Fox and whomever, they created what they thought the X-Men should be, or what the Fantastic Four should be, or Daredevil should be.
Or Spidey.
Where here, now that it's all, with Marvel, now Marvel's in house, no, this is what Iron Man's going to be, and this is how we look at we know the characters, we know the resources, etc. And the same can be done here with everything being within the PlayStation house, and it's very possible that decision, as we know the reasons of what disrupted with Netflix, and I think they may have gone, okay, well, we're not going to put that out. We're not going to go external with ourselves if we can avoid it. And TV series they can't because they don't have a a platform. I think the major one is what would have been Hulu, which became Max.
Which
And
is
that
then an
Max
HBO.
yeah, Max isn't a worldwide platform, because Hulu was originally like Disney and Sony, a bunch of other people coming together to build one awesome streaming service, and they realized we could wring people's money out if we made our own individual platforms. So there's no direct platform for them to push a TV series out. They'd have to work in conjunction with somebody
Well,
else.
and that's weird. Like if we go to the stuff that exists now, so we've obviously got The Last of Us, which is HBO/Max. You've got
Yeah. God of
Twisted
War
Metal that
coming
is with
is Amazon.
Peacock,
That's
and God of
Paramount.
War is Amazon. So we've got this kind of
Peacock.
scattered all over the place. But you're right. Like bit by bit, there's no reason why. When it comes to the TV realm, sure they have to accept that they're going to work with some partners to a degree, especially if it's a more traditional adaptation, something that doesn't fit the Crunchyroll mold. But in scenarios like this, where they can be the creator, they can be the producer, they can be the distribution service, why not? It becomes
exactly.
it lowers and lowers the risk.
Exactly. My point of that was more around the idea of we can control what the story's going to be. We control how it relates. Can we connect it to the multiplayer game in some way, rather than just taking the idea of, oh, let's call it Ghost of Tsushima and we'll strap samurai into a thing and pump it out. Because I don't think PlayStation Productions are in any position to just throw something out there like they would have back in the day, like that Doom movie from a bajillion years ago. That would never be made.
Oh my god, Doom! I mean, that FPS sequence, that was good shit. That was pretty good. But that's because we were gamers. It's probably like maybe as a piece of film, it's probably still not that good.
But yeah, it also works in, as you
Lenses.
said, in the same way that you mentioned a moment ago about maybe Horizon can be this, which then can expand into this. I think Ghost of Tsushima has that ability as well. We've got the movie presumably coming at some point, and then the series will follow shortly after to supplement the movie. And because of its with the nature of everything that it is so drenched in Japanese culture that having it work within a Japanese heavy like platform delivery in anime, it's a win-win. It's a tick. Like there's no better way to put it.
You obviously just suggested there that that the film comes first. What if it's the reverse?
That's fine too.
Do you feel like
I think with the understanding of the anime would be able to tailor to the needs of the more diehard fan, and in the same way that the Cyberpunk and the Castlevania series have invoked new fan bases and new interest amongst people, it's very likely that if it's in a similar vein that they might be able to lure some people in, build a little bit of a low end rumble, and then when the movie hits, everyone's like, "Yo, if you're going to watch this movie, you need to watch this series," and then it can feed into that. Both options are good.
Which then gets people potentially subscribing to Crunchyroll.
Yep.
So more money for Sony from subscriptions. It looks like they're pretty good either way. Well, then that takes us to our final adaptation, at least in terms of the stuff from CES, Helldivers. There's not necessarily a lot to say about this one. Certainly interested if you've got any particular ideas to how they could go about adapting it. I'd be keen to hear them. The one little morsel of stuff that I'll toss out there that I haven't really seen reported on. I mentioned it in a chat with you, Joel, and Max over the course of the week. I was listening to Kind of Funny Games Daily afterwards, which is about the only piece of Kind of Funny content I actually still check out these days because they've just put out so much.
They've been 10 years. Shout out to them. And we don't engage in their content as much as we used to, but it is how we met. So shout out to them.
Good shit. But they were running Kind of Funny Games Daily. They were talking about these adaptations, and then because Gary Whitta former Dev Diary guest, but responsible for so many amazing pieces of fiction over the years, Star Wars Rogue One among many. They got on the phone to him because he's a gigantic Helldivers fan, and they just wanted to, Gary, what do you think? What do you think it should be? And they clearly cold call. This was not scripted, not planned. And they called Gary and, okay, Gary, what do you think about Helldivers? And he flat batted. He gave the I can't comment. And my first reaction was, holy shit, and I haven't deviated from this. Holy shit, they've just unwillingly stumbled into confirming that Gary Whitta is writing for this thing, and that's awesome. because he's, in terms of, you're talking about some of these other adaptations and getting the right people involved. Firstly, Gary has proven time and time again to be unbelievably talented as a writer for film, television, for books, for everything. But he's a fan. He understands the franchise. He gets the humor involved. He gets what makes this franchise tick. And so that, like, we've accidentally learnt that they're trying to get the right people into this.
By extension, Greg Miller isn't an idiot. He knows what he knows.
Yeah. Well, Greg wasn't involved at all in this.
Oh, but I'm saying cold call. Is it?
Yeah. No, because they had a million different tech issues and all those. Gary was there was something going on when they first called him. He basically, no, shut up, call me back. Like, it was a whole bunch. It was very much unplanned.
But yeah, they would know.
Well, they know now for sure. At the very least, they know now. As do we all.
Helldivers, the difficulty of Helldivers is that, yes, it is so heavily inspired by Starship Troopers that it does make it difficult to, like, well, how do you do it without just making it Starship Troopers?
Maybe you can just lean into that, because, like, how many people genuinely in 2025 and beyond, because this will be 2026, 2027 at the earliest. Like, how many people of the youth these days are going to go, oh, Starship Troopers, like, even within our age demographics and kind of our pop culture points that get discussed, Starship Troopers doesn't come up that much.
No.
It comes up more from those who play games because they've played Helldivers and they go, oh yeah, it's like Starship Troopers. But then a bunch of people would have gone, what, Starship Troopers, and gone and checked it out. And like, oh, okay, now I get it. Like, it's not really this enormous franchise like you would potentially want to believe based on how often it's been referenced in the last 12 months. So this could be just their opportunity to go, look, sure, we're probably lifting a lot from Starship Troopers here. It's going to feel a lot like Starship Troopers, but that doesn't matter.
No. It's certainly not a bad thing in that it's been a while since I've seen Starship Troopers, but I feel that, yes, they are incredibly similar. That the Helldivers turns up the silly a little bit more, right?
Yeah.
And that, I think, allows them to with this movie. Is it movie or series?
Movie.
Okay. Yeah, because I like the idea that it's, your name. You can kind of make like a John Smith nameless individual, which then allows you to follow the story of this one guy as he gets, trained, dropped, and then he's just on this planet, right? Like, it's very one character focused, and their experience of Super Earth and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Enlist.
That makes the most sense. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, look, I've. It's been a long, long time since I've seen Starship Troopers, so I don't really, and I'm pretty sure I was drunk too. So I don't really remember it all that well.
The idea of the whole 2 hours was just propaganda, I think that'd be funny as well.
Yeah, lean into it. We can all sit there in cinemas, got this one going. Why not? It's gonna be an interesting one. I feel like we've both got the least that we can potentially offer to this one, because really, in a lot of ways, it's kind of a blank canvas. They've got their kind of tonal and humor kind of beats they've been hitting in the games, but in terms of what you then build in terms of a story, it can be whatever. I mean, if we even think about the story of the game, it's really mostly kind of evolved through social media stuff. And the way that the community managers will then interact with the audience, go, oh, because this, now this is happening, and then that links to an in-game event that happens. It's not really something that's being depicted in-game. It's not really official lore in a way. It's kind of
the way I kind
built
of
with the community.
From like obviously not exactly like this, because I think this would be horrible, but I like the idea. Did you ever see the movie This Is the End? Like the movie with Seth Rogen, James Franco.
I know the one, but yeah.
Yeah, it's him and all his mates, and it's about them facing the apocalypse, right? And they're all themselves, but amplified. I think this has the potential to do something like that, as in, like, follow a group of friends that, they're all clones or whatever, they're all part of the same, however the Helldivers work, and you're following them as they get, you follow them as a squad throughout, and by having it be kind of that looser humor, it can be a really serious and really dark and gritty, and then it can be comedically them, screaming shit as they run away from, like, an ungodly giant ass bug. You know what I mean?
Or a pod that's about to land on it.
Yeah, you have to find that sort of middle ground. where it can't be too serious, it can't be too slapstick to be like a childish or cartoony, but sort of enough to be serious but loose. If
Yeah,
that makes sense.
yeah. It's gonna be a tricky tightrope to walk. I mean, all
Yeah,
comedy is,
I
right?
assume it's going to be a comedy, right? Like,
It's
absolutely,
got
there's
to
no
be.
other way. Yeah,
It's got to be. You would think
you'd hope it'd have to be.
it'd be. Yeah, it'd be too hard to pivot. I think. I don't know. Interesting one though. I'm very much
Or like
surprised
what?
that they're adapting it.
Or if you see it from, you're not seeing it from the idea of the Helldivers. You're seeing it from the leadership.
And they're going, what the fuck?
It's them going, we just got to keep throwing people at it, and it's like an office drama, and it's them trying to suss out what's going on. Like, can we just throw more bodies at it? I suppose. But they need a turret. Like, fuck, I don't have one.
Just drop one, throw it out there. Oh shit, it crushed him. Send some more troopers down.
You're like, oh shit, killed him. All right, send another one.
I, I could see it. It could work.
Mm.
So those were the four that were discussed at CES. But obviously, there's more to come. What wasn't discussed is that we've obviously got season 2 of Twisted Metal that is due to apparently according to Anthony Mackie, apparently all filming and production and those sorts of things are done. So I'm a little bit surprised that didn't turn up in any capacity in the end, simply because that's probably, I mean, outside of The Last of Us, that's probably the next one to roll off the conveyor belt. Is season 2 there? Sorry, spider crawling around my desk. Don't like it when I just see them crawling up in front of me. Not ideal. And I mean, look, this train's going to keep going. There's obviously, we've alluded to God of War. You're a crazy God of War fan. Talk to me for a sec before we start to wrap things up. Talk to me for a sec about what you would like a God of War adaptation. It's a TV series as things stand with Amazon. What do you want it to be? Do we go Greek? Do we go Norse?
No, it's Norse. Right, because it's the same thing. Like we were discussing this prior to this recording. We're talking about a game that we've been playing, and how the two characters, you get the sense that they have known each other for a long period of time as they start to discuss story. Like things that they've experienced together, and we get flashbacks and I think
don't we can allude to this. You've still got to put your show up, but this is after the embargo was Saturday night,
yeah,
so Kingdom Come Deliverance 2.
Yeah, so a big thank you to the team at PlayOn for providing us both preview codes. And because you're playing the same character as one, they're able to open the game and sort of have that feeling of that they've gone on this journey together. And I think if Amazon were to handle God of War as the Norse, you get to open with the mystery of, oh, who's this guy? And clearly he's got a past and he's avoiding it. Why is he avoiding it? And then you get all the beauty of, in the same way that when we played God of War 2018 and they started throwing back to Greek,
the vase and all those sorts of things,
and the blades and so on, we're all like shitting ourselves. But like if you've never known what that is and you're watching it, they can invoke that same feeling.
Yeah, and it can work.
Yeah,
I think it can work really well.
And it allows you to get all the major beats that build Kratos into the developed character that he is now. Kratos within 1, 2, 3, Chains of Olympus, Ghost of Sparta, Ascension, like they are all. Like, he is not this shallow character that everyone says he was. Yes, he came out in a time where it was big, angry dudes doing big, angry
testosterone,
yeah. Yeah, but, like, they still fed through enough of character to get you to connect and understand him, to allow for 2018 to be so powerful, and then to transition into, like, Ragnarok.
Yeah.
So that's for me. That's what I want to see. I would honestly just like Christopher Judge to play Kratos. Like, why the fuck not, right? He's the best at it in terms of how I see it. So,
yeah, look, I'm good with the idea of the Norse setting, and then similar to what my points were about Horizon. There's no reason why, and especially because bigger, louder, more bombastic, more testosterone, more about the violence, more about just kind of the flash and glitz
from a
and
production
the whole
standpoint,
thing.
that'd be insane.
That there's also no reason why, similar to the Ghost style Legends thing, no reason why they can't do something animated down that line in the future as well, where you go, okay, you've seen, like, here's our high production, this is the, like, and certainly in terms of the depth of the character, they can go deeper with the more recent renditions of Kratos that we've seen. As you said rightly, there is more than just the anger and Calliope that we they got in the original games, but
smash and stuff, and Well,
There
as you
was
mentioned, like those original games were a lot larger. They were in terms of scale of like the Colossus, a lot more violence. Therefore, once it would be a lot more production cost. Where 2018, although it does have those moments, the way it's written, the way it's delivered, has those moments to simmer and sit and build on character. So from a production standpoint, you'd want to do that because you could have two episodes be relatively quiet character pieces, then have either a flashback to Greece that allows him to, show him fighting the Titans, and then you could also then have it fight a troll or
yeah.
the son whose name escaped Boulder. Where you can really build up to these big, powerful, huge, crunchy moments within the character stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot they can do. I'm looking forward to it. Last question for you before we wrap things up. Lots of franchises have been adapted so far, and there's likely to be more to come. What's a PlayStation franchise that hasn't yet received some sort of adaptation? What's the one that you feel like? Well, actually, it's kind of a hard two questions here. What's the one that you think is the next one up, the next most likely? What's the one that you personally want? And I'll happily answer that in the meantime, if you like.
Yes,
I want more than anything for there to be an Infamous,
mm-hmm.
Cole, and everything that kind of goes on with that. Because and I don't know if they'd do it, but at the same time, they're adapting Gravity Rush, right? So there's no reason why not. They've done Twisted Metal, why not? And people love a superhero. And they've done things like Powers and all these sorts of things over the years, PlayStation or Sony. So they don't mind a televised superhero thing. But what I feel like is going to happen, I feel like we're going to get something from either Resistance or Killzone.
Yeah, potentially.
And that's simply down the lens of, especially the Resistance one, like the war and the kind of that, in terms of like addressing different sort of film genres or television genres. There's a war story they can do there, which is totally very different to all the others, but they're kind of hitting on another pillar, which is an option. And obviously, we haven't really spoken about it in great detail, but the Until Dawn movie is due to come out this year as well. So actually, I think that wasn't that due out in April. I think I'm wrong with.
April of this year, April 2025. Yeah.
So
one that I would like, but I know it would never happen, would be something like Days Gone. Come thinking about.
Isn't that getting an adaptation though?
It was rumbles, but I don't think there's anything ever happening.
Right.
I don't think it's locked down.
I'll
mostly
quickly check
it's
that.
kind of, it's hitting to two things that are kind of a bit out of date. In that Sons of Anarchy I really liked, but it's not. Bikers aren't popular right now. Zombies had their time, especially with The Last of Us. It's too similar to a lot of other things that exist.
There was a report in 2022 that said there was an adaptation, but we've heard nothing since.
Yeah. Because Walking Dead's still around, but it's nowhere near as good as it ever was. So like that, the appetite for that is a lot less. But keeping in the vein of Sony Bend, what could be really fun is like a Mission Impossible
Siphon Filter
X24 Siphon Filter.
Oh, that's a cool one. And again, I guess coming through a similar sort of lens to mine, hitting on a different sort of genre. The spy style, the spy thriller thing. That's an opportunity too, and people love that. So, I mean, it's going back a while now, but think about 24s and Aliases, and then Homelands and all those sorts of things that you kind of get more in the more modern setting. Like, people could lap that up, and we're not getting too we're not getting Metal Gear style crazy with this stuff. It's still very grounded in a lot of ways.
Grounded, yeah.
So
like that would be fun. I think that would be a good one. Would they do it? Not likely.
But also why not? Because we've also heard these reports, and this is not really something we can. I mean, we're about to tick over an hour at this point, so it's not necessarily something we'll dive into in great depth today. But we've heard the reports that PlayStation is looking to reinvest in some of their smaller franchises, or some of their franchises that are gathering dust. They can leverage the PlayStation Productions platform to make Siphon Filter, Infamous, Killzone, Resistance, any of the different franchises we've just kind of discussed here. The PlayStation Productions platform could make these franchises relevant, and then the game comes along. Infamous 4, 3, whatever they want, whatever they want to do with it, a new siphon filter, etc., and or just a flat reboot for these different platforms. And
the difficulty with that is the production time for a movie is way less than the production time of a game. So they would have to work alongside, like within unison of each other, right?
to a degree,
In order for it to have a reasonable proximity, like of impact, right?
what would you say is a reasonable amount of time, though?
What I'm saying, because once again, if most games on average take say 4 to 5 years to make, right? So a movie could take 2 years, pushing it. Right, probably maybe a bit longer, but even then, there's 2 years it releases, and then 3 years later the game comes out. They are not close to one another. In the world of instant gratification that we live in, we would need it to be within 6 to 8 months. So,
I actually think though the 2 to 3 year sort of gap is totally fine though, because
people crack the shits having to wait 3 months for the other half of a season.
But you're also probably you're probably also not knowing about that game though. At the time, you get your siphon filter. Like we're talking about it through this lens that these are connected, but the way they're gonna, they go, hey, here's your siphon filter production.
If you want to do one to feed the other, because that's what you're saying, right? Is the idea is that they make the series, or the movie, then everyone goes, "Oh, I would like to play some more siphon filter," but you don't want to immediately announce the next game. You want to let it simmer for a little bit, let it get its buzz or whatever. But on the other side, if the movie or series comes out and it isn't well received, you're early enough in the production to fuck it off. But also, you may also be further enough within it, because if you did the other way, which was we'll start working on the game first, start working on the movie so they sync up together. If one sucks, they both suck.
Potentially, it's a high risk game in some ways, but
I think the syncopation between the two, the synchronicity, like it's really a tough thing to nail.
You got to back in your people, right? So I think that then starts to really
audiences. They are so heavily different audiences.
Absolutely, but there is crossover, and one can. Which one was that?
Infamous?
Oh yeah,
that'd be fucking sick. That'd be so sick.
One can really lift the other, I think, in these spaces, and look, that whilst behind the scenes there would be one's going to help elevate the other, which is what's happening. It's just kind of in reverse at the moment because they're adaptations of games that already exist. I think they would back in their people in the first party productions team, the various teams that they've got. You go, okay, we're going to back in our people here because how often do they get it wrong? Concord excluded. And then their PlayStation productions like Assad Kizilbash and all he's doing, like you can see the quality, like everything from Uncharted onwards, and even then they really didn't pull that in until, I mean, it had been bubbling along for so long before they really made a thing of this, and it's almost kind of old school Spider-Man disconnected from the MCU. Yep. But now even Uncharted 2, the film is going to be under that umbrella. It's going to be far more heavily scrutinized by the Sony Pictures, PlayStation production sort of teams. I think they're building this, like they're lifting those standards, and I feel like a point is going to come soon where they're going to go, okay, no, we're going to back in our people here, and that, we're going to back in our game developers, we're going to back in our producers and directors in TV or film land, and go, no, look, and if it turns out that every now and then one doesn't work, well, we'll go, we might also have a pretty excellent game here still that we can stick with. But if they're a little bit ho-hum, to your point, they go, okay, well, we're only 18 months into this, it's early enough that we can kill it.
Because we talk about the games that, like what games or old IPs they're going to bring back. Like I imagine they're relatively newer IPs, or like those real classic ones that are, you're like, oh, is that too easy of a pick? You're like, yeah, that's the one they're going to pick. And they're not going to pull out some B grade shit that we got really excited. Like they're not going to bring Army Men Sergeant Heroes or something.
I can't wait for them to say fuck you to the Soulsborne audience and go, no, you're not getting your Bloodborne 4K version, you're getting your sequel. No, we're just going to give you a TV series.
Yeah.
That's it. Suck a dick. So
but it makes sense though, because like thematically those worlds are really cool.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But jam it, Bloodborne fans, you're not going to get another game. All right, well, that's, I think, we've gone north of an hour at this point. There's lots to discuss, and I'm sure we're going to get a lot more information about these various different series over the course of the year, let alone the fact that The Last of Us is coming, Until Dawn is coming, and Twisted Metal are all coming this year. So plenty of PlayStation production stuff in the next 12 months, let alone what's to come down the line. Betson, we're going to wrap things up here. Talk to everyone. We mentioned at the very beginning of the show, this is your first bit of content for the year. You're back on the grind for the players starting tomorrow to go live within about an hour of this show going live as well. Talk to the audience here about where we can catch what you're doing.
Yeah, pretty much. So, look, if you liked what I have to say about things, particularly PlayStation things, I do have a weekly PlayStation podcast with myself and my co-host Max Cooper. Discuss all the ins and outs of PlayStation news, reviews, previews, you name it, all in this sort of late night show, silly entertainment, lighthearted, very Australian nonsense. It's called For the Players, the Pop Culture PlayStation podcast. It's available on all your podcast services and YouTube. We're released now. For the first time in like 5 years, I've actually changed it. Tuesdays, because my weekends of bullshit has really gotten in the way. So we've pushed it back a day, which means it can become a Paul show now. Just saying. What do you do Monday nights?
We'll see. Might make some cameos from time to time.
Oh.
My footy production schedule is going up through the roof over the course of this year, but at the same time, Monday nights are currently free, so let's see.
Oh, that's the good to see what happens. But if you want to hear more of my bullshit, that's the best place to do it. You can also follow me on Twitter. That's HAGGARDMC. That's HaggardMC. Talk mostly about wrestling and PlayStation. I'm a kid.
It's all good stuff. Go check it all out. And yeah, make sure if you haven't already done so, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Check out For the Players on podcast feeds as well. Awesome stuff. And yeah, maybe I'll make some cameos over the course of the year.
Ooh,
please, hey, it has been a while. Your show's better off without me. But anyway, your show's better off without me.
That's what I'm saying. And I'm like, that is so wrong, Paul. I appreciate the compliment, but you were wrong.
So on the Player 2 side, make sure if you haven't already done so, visit the website player2.net.au, subscribe to the YouTube channel, check Patched Out on podcast feeds as well. You can find me at Paul James Games on, I think, basically every social these days, Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky. And the Player 2 website, Player 2 AU on all those same platforms. Betson, it's been awesome to have you on board, mate.
Oh, man, absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Enjoy more Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. More for us to say. You go check out Betson's conversation about that in For the Players. It'll be again live. What time do you guys go live on podcast feeds again?
9 a.m.
9 a.m.
8 a.m. on podcast services, 9 a.m.
There we go. An hour after this goes live, big full thoughts from Betson and Max on For the Players. So go check that one out.
Big, deep, intense detail on hammer and swords and horseshoes.
Up to a certain sequence that we then can't talk about anything more beyond that. Stay tuned for the full review conversation close to embargo. That's where we'll wrap things up for now, though. Thanks for coming on board, mate. Thank you, everyone, for watching. And we'll see you later.